Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Facebook Live about open enrollment under the new proximity zones in the school district of Lee County. Elementary parents, you are down to 10 days to take action. My name's Rob Spicker. I'm Assistant Director in the Communications Department, and I'll moderate your questions. Answering those questions today for us are Soretta Ralph, who's Executive Director of Student Enrollment, Scott Kozlowski, who is Assistant Director in Exceptional Student Education, and Dr. Adam Alloy, a coordinator in the Superintendent's Office. To parents that are watching this now or later today, understand that we do want to help you through this process. We've got a number of questions that have already been submitted to us. We'll be going through those, and we'll watch the comments if you're with us live, adding any new topics or questions as they come up to our presentation today. These proximity zones, parents, they do require you to take action. If your student is at a school that's out of your new zone, you need to let us know if you want that child to stay there with the understanding you're going to provide transportation, or you have to decide to enter into the lottery for a school closer to home. If you are in one of the schools that's in your attendance area and you like that school, you don't have to take any action. But if you're interested in that attendance zone of changing schools, you do need to enter into the lottery. A lot happening, 10 days left to take those actions. Let's get to our questions. A couple of themes were most prevalent and coming in most frequently. So guys, if you're ready, I want to start with some ESE questions, because that's been really a common question of late. As parents are going through this, they have a child that's in the ESE program, one or the other, and the school they attend is out of their zone. So they're wondering, are they able to stay in that school and still be able to get transportation? And can you walk us through that, Scott?
Yes, if there is a student that is either in a special class or a special program, especially our self-contained units, then yes, they would be able to stay at their current school and still receive transportation if that is the case.
And how do they fill that out in the forms as they're going through it?
Soretta, I'm not sure. I believe that they are automatically placed there. I don't believe they have to do anything. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're exactly right.
Okay.
Our ESE students have been pre-placed into their current school of enrollment. Now, if the parent wishes to change to a school in their proximity, that's totally up to the parent.
Right. And the big key there is that self-contained, correct?
Self-contained or special program, something that is on that campus that's not available everywhere else, and that would be the big thing. And if they do have questions about that, they can give me a call in the ESE office and I can answer anything I can.
All right, the other question that comes along with the ESE is the student in ESE qualifies for transportation, but there's another sibling in that school. Can that other sibling ride the same bus as the sibling who's in the ESE program?
It was my understanding that transportation was trying to do that as a courtesy in the past, but from what I'm being told, that is not a courtesy that they're able to continue in the future. So no, that they would not be able to, correct.
Okay, thank you. Transportation to daycare. It's a big question that comes up as well, particularly if the daycare is out of the zone, the new attendance zone. Are schools and buses going to be available to daycares that are out of the proximity zone?
Not necessarily out of their proximity zone. Per our policy, stops outside of a residential address can be added as long as it's on an existing route or stop. So within the proximity zones themselves, yes, that potentially could be used, but you will see a reduction of those existing routes and stops.
I want to go back to ESE because a couple questions are popping up right away. Can pre-K ESE students be grandfathered into their current school?
It depends. If they are going to continue into pre-K, I believe yes, that they would be able to if they're in a specialized program. If they are rolling into kindergarten, they would have to go through the process just like everyone else.
All right, and what about a full-time gifted student who is currently not in their new zone? So full-time gifted at an out-of-zone school?
I'm not sure about that. I believe so, yes. Yes.
Yeah, that would qualify as one of the self-contained programs that we've identified with the service delivery models, and they will be able to maintain their enrollment and be provided transportation.
Thank you.
And may I add something to Scott's? With our ESE, our pre-K going to kindergarten, some of our pre-K classrooms, they were able to serve those students' needs, but it could be possible that that school for next year for kindergarten may not have that STM available or be able to meet that child's needs. So they may not be able to stay at that school. So we're having to look at each of those students individually.
Correct. And again, if they were staying in pre-K, we would look at their special delivery model that if they're going up to kindergarten, we would have to go through the process for each of those because that school might not necessarily have that program.
And you can see why it brings up questions for parents. And so that's why we're here to help and hopefully walk them through and get them through that. I want to go back to the bus a little bit just for some clarification, because that will be a big concern, a motivating factor for many parents. So if they are assigned to school in their new proximity zone, busing is available, but under the same guidelines as now, so they have to live 2 miles away from the school that they're assigned, correct?
Correct. So within that 2 mile radius, it's a kind of like a safe walk zone. But outside of that, within the proximity zone, they'll be provided transportation.
There is a perception that we hear in some of our engagement with families out there that if they're out of zone, they don't need to do anything. What happens if a child that is at an out of zone school right now and they do not take any action? What's going to happen with their placement for next year?
They will be reassigned within their proximity zone and without their ranking or choice. So that's why it's so important within this enrollment period that if you are going into your proximity zone for transportation, if you are a rising, kindergartner, that you make sure that you fill out those forms, that you go into your parent portal, that you make those rankings, because you will be reassigned outside of that school.
Another thing we hear some feedback about is that regardless of what happens, my child is attending this school, I like it, and that's where I'm sending them to on the first day of school in August. And they intend to show up, is what they say. Is that going to even be possible to take your child to the school they're currently at if they've been assigned another one through this process?
No, that is inaccurate. They will be reassigned, and then their place will be at that new school within their proximity zone. We do love the engagement and the support for our schools, and we hope that they have that same amount of enthusiasm and love for their new school that they will be reassigned to.
We got a lot of questions at one point about the incoming kindergartners, both sometimes with or without an older sibling that they might trail behind. So that families that have a kindergarten student who will be starting in August, what is their process, maybe with an older sibling and without?
So with the kindergartners that will be starting in August, we hope that those parents have already registered their child for kindergarten. We started this back in October, so we're hoping they've already registered, because that will give us a better idea of how many students that we have coming into the district and be able to allocate spaces at the schools. They will be assigned with their sibling. That assignment, if it has not already occurred as a pre-placement, then that assignment will be occurring before the lottery is run. If you have an incoming kindergartner that doesn't have a sibling, again, we want to make sure that they get assigned. And somewhat going off what Dr. Malloy just said, if they don't do it now, then they may run the chance of not being able to rank those schools in their order of choice. And they'll get a school in their proximity, but it may not be the school that they wanted as their first choice, because we are limited on space in some cases.
Staying with some of the younger students and questions that are coming in off Facebook, can I grandfather into our pre-K child into kindergarten?
Is there an older sibling?
I don't know if there's an older sibling or not, but if they're at their current school, they like it as a pre-K, can they grandfather in as a kindergartner?
I think we did answer that.
Yeah.
The rising pre-K
Would have to go through the same processes as any other kindergartner going in for the first time.
Okay. What if I want my student to attend the Young 5 program, not in their zone?
So I can answer that one. We have a Young 5 program in each of the proximity zones now. So there is a school that offers the Young 5 program in each proximity zone.
So that would be the school that they
Yes.
would use the program at. This one was also asked, what if I'm moving and I don't have a proof of address yet with only 10 days to go? What happens to somebody in that situation? Obviously a particular question.
So again, they will get a school in their proximity zone based on their new address when they have that address available. That's the positive about the proximity zones. In prior years, they could have gotten their 17th choice if they waited until later. But again, we'll be enrolling students based on their address in their proximity zone, which provides schools that are all really close to their residents.
So when they have the address, come back to student enrollment.
Or send us an email to studentenrollment@leeschools.net.
Yeah, you don't have to come in person anymore. You can do it virtually or through online. An ESE question, maybe Scott, back to you, that's come in. Can ESE staff participate in the decision-making process for moving or not moving a student?
Are we talking to a new service delivery or a new program or a new school That would be the question. If it's for a service delivery, yes, that would be an IEP team decision, and the IEP can reconvene to take a look at other service deliveries. But as far as what school they're placed in, no, that would not. It would not be an IEP or a teacher decision.
Question that's also come in, and this is maybe one for the future, but with will the bus times change with proximity? So I don't have to get to the bus so early, 5 a.m. in particular, the question that came in.
Yeah, so we have shared the new Esri GIS file with transportation, and as soon as we run and make those assignments, those new routes and those new times will be available. We do expect to see an improvement as it relates to some of those earlier times that we're traveling very far.
Right, because one of the advantages, as we've discussed, Dr. Malloy, and you can expand on this if you want, but with proximity zones closer to home, it's shorter routes, therefore later pickup times, earlier drop-off times.
Correct. We're hoping to see improvements in terms of efficiency at all levels of transportation.
Let me check if there's more that are coming in. So far, that's what that's what's come in. So let me ask this question. There's been some confusion. A message goes out, you need to take action. That parent's already taken action. They don't need to fill the forms out over and over again each time they get this message, correct?
Yeah, correct. Once they submit either their grandfathering form and choice application or their grandfathering form, they're set there. There has been, some over communication, I would say, which is good in this particular instance. So there has been some over communication where action had already been taken, and so there was some confusion for parents. Well, do I need to do anything more? But no, once you've already submitted in your parent portal, you are good to go.
However, you can make updates if you wish, correct, until the deadline. The last form, would I be correct in saying that? The last form submitted will be the one that's run through the lottery?
In most cases, yes, that's true, especially with rank ordering the schools. But if they're submitting a grandfather form and then they're submitting a school choice application for a different zone, we have to assume that the grandfather form was the one they wanted, unless the parent communicates directly with us.
All right. When we have a March 10th for elementary open enrollment, we'll run the lottery. After that, all the assignments will be made. When do we anticipate that families will find out their school assignments?
So our goal is to be able to run the lottery around March the 20th after we do all of our cleanup. And again, just elaborating on the question you just asked, if the parent submits 2 different forms, we'll have to communicate with that parent to make sure that we know what they really want to do. So our goal is to run the lottery on March the 20th, make sure everything falls in place, review everything, and communication would go out to families hopefully by the 1st of April. And it'll go out via email, or they'll be able to see the School of Enrollment in their Focus Parent Portal.
All right. Another ESE question. Will the same ESE programs be available in every zone?
We don't have any intention on changing service delivery or any of our programs drastically, anything like that. Sometimes we create new classrooms based on need, but we're not moving things around or anything like that, no.
Once the process is complete, inevitably some parents are going to wish that their child was assigned to a different school or recognize that maybe they didn't fill out the form correctly. What's the avenue after the school assignments come out if, as a parent, I feel like I did something wrong or the assignment is wrong, I want to appeal, I want to make a change? What's the process afterwards?
Well, first, we will have a wait list if you don't get your first choice in your schools. Suppose you get your second or your third choice. We will have that wait list that we will continue to work through the last day of July. We will also have a waiver process where parents can submit a waiver, as they've always had in the past. The form will be a little bit different for the elementary parents, but that form will ask the parents to give us their unique hardship as to why they need a different school. And also the thing that we would have to look at when we're reviewing the waivers is there space available in the school they're requesting? Because with the limited number of schools in each of our zones, we all know that Lee County continues to grow and more people will be moving in. So we do have to keep some seats available for future enrollments.
Question that's come in is just maybe to simplify an explanation of what is the grandfather form in Focus. Maybe you want to explain where you find that, what it does.
Yeah, so it's in forms on the left-hand side if you're using a desktop. In your app, I believe it's in the top right, but there is a form in which you can elect to stay at your current school outside of the zone and waive transportation. So that will be under the forms tab. Just depends differently if you're on the desktop or if you're on the app.
Right, and on the website, leeschools.net, we do have a video that walks you through. We do have flyers that walk you through step by step. So if you're looking for that information, that's where you should go, is leeschools.net. Any other places for information that's available that you would drive our audience to?
I would say the school site in particular, our school sites are kind of, our special connection for our parents. So, calling the school and just say, hey, I need some help walking through this, or hey, I'm having trouble with my parent portal. I'm not sure where to access this form or this new choice application. And they will be able to, if not help you immediately on the phone, walk you through where to get that information.
And let's be very clear, this is elementary school. Middle and high school are not affected by the new proximity zones this year. So middle and high school students are making their same choices just as always. In fact, their deadline is Friday. Right?
Their deadline is Friday.
So elementary families have that extra week. This is different for you. It's specific, the proximity zone specific to our elementary families. Question that's come in, maybe we brought this up, but when do the waivers get viewed? I have filled one out to stay at my current school because of my child's medical condition.
So the waivers will be reviewed after the lottery runs. So we're telling parents, most of our parents, our communication is in April.
So fill out the forms, then your waiver is submitted later.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
That's all right.
We actually already have quite a few forms that are waivers that parents have submitted, and we've just got them in a file.
Yeah, so the waiver can be submitted, but it doesn't get reviewed until after the assignment lottery.
Correct.
All right. Question that's come in about why. I didn't start with the history because we're a few weeks in, but let's talk about why we have adopted the proximity zones.
I think just to put it straightforward, is that our current system wasn't getting our kids to school on time. It was very inefficient as it related to a number of metrics and goals. We needed to do a better job of getting our kids to school on time. We hope to see a lot of connected benefits with a reduction in the size and the scale of transportation responsibility, including but not limited to start and end times, and also potentially increased instructional time.
Another question that's come in, and I don't know if there's a good answer for this, but what are the chances that my child gets their first choice school? That's always a question every year. Fewer options with proximity zones for elementary students. Is there an answer to that question?
My fingers are crossed. So actually, there is somewhat of some things that parents can do. They can use the priorities or the preferences. If they live within 2 miles of the school, then they have a better chance if they rank that school as their first choice. If they have a sibling, which we should have already pre-placed all of the siblings, so that shouldn't be an issue. But looking at the proximity within the school is a better option. And again, we will have the wait list. If you did not get your first choice, you'll go on the wait list and hopefully there'll be movement.
All right, it is a lottery.
Yes, sir, it is.
And that's why we often stress too that it doesn't matter if your application was submitted the first day or if it's in on March 10th, everybody goes into the lottery at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah, one of those important details, all right?
Rob, I did want to touch base on something that Ms. Ralph mentioned, because I think it's very important that participation is key. Like that's your key, is to participate in this process, in this enrollment process, if you're an incoming kindergartner, or if you are going into a new proximity zone, you have to participate, right? Our percentages of people that got their first and second choice were always very high for those that participated, right? But there were families that were not participating. So that's extremely important. That's why we've put this out there, and that's why we've been over communicating daily to our parents that you have to take action and you have to participate if you are outside of the zone or if you're an incoming kindergarten family. So I just wanted to touch base because Ms. Ralph has done an amazing job at placing kids in their first and second choice if they participate.
2 follow-up questions that have come in, and one goes back to the why after a hurricane disrupted school year and the impacts that has had on so many families. Again, maybe the why now. Did the hurricane impact the decision-making at all?
It did, certainly, and we were very empathetic to our families, but we also understood that we had to put the emphasis on the classroom in the school building and not on the bus. We reached a critical juncture, a critical mass, a tipping point, if you will, in terms of transportation, where we hit the 3,000 students late every single day, and it was only going to get worse. Our county, as Ms. Ralph mentioned, is growing dynamically. We are predicted to grow by 28,000 in the next 10 years. That is only going to put more added stress on our system, and we recognized that we had to do something now if we wanted to improve the ability to get kids from their home to school and back.
A question that's come into about elementary school start times. Will all elementary start at the same time, or will they keep those two tiers?
They keep the 2 tiers for now, but we will be adjusting start and end times, hopefully as a positive consequence of the proximity plan.
And a very specific question that's being asked, that their child is in foster care but is moving back with their biological family next year. What do they do now in the meantime?
So unless the biological family already has that stability paperwork or the paperwork from the foster care system that says that they're going to get this child back in their household, it's almost like the people with the change of address, where we will have those students pre-placed back into their school, into their proximity zone. And I'm assuming this question may be leading to the parent wanting to grandfather a child. So we'll have to look at those individually, because we do understand that the families don't have that opportunity at this time.
To follow up on the start times, the bus routes, does this have an opportunity to help with bus route times at all for high school?
I think that we will see the potential in year 2 to shrink from a 4-tier transportation system to a 3-tier transportation system, which should potentially assist in the early morning. Now, our high schools are on that first tier, so that typically runs fine. So we're hopeful that when we move from the 4 to the 3, that we will see improved efficiency at each level, at each school level.
So something to come, something to look forward to, maybe one of the benefits down the line. All right, well, those are the questions that have come in so far and that we wanted to ask. Would direct everybody to leeschools.net. There's a banner on the homepage, takes you to the elementary proximity site on our page that gives you all the information you need to walk you through this for the next 10 days. Any final thoughts from our panel about getting families through this elementary process?
I would say the biggest thing, like Adam said, participate. Make sure that your voice is heard on what you would prefer, and I would say that would be the biggest thing for them to do.
And I would say if you have a question specific to you, please communicate with us via email. We're not able to answer phone calls all the time because we're helping families. We have 2 lobbies of people right now, but send an email. We work on those all night long.
Student enrollment at leeschools.net.
Yes, sir.
That's the email address. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hopefully, we've gone through your questions. We'll continue to look at the comments to see if there's anything else there that comes up. But do reach out, do get involved, do take part so that you are part of this process. Thanks again, and have a good afternoon.